everybody, welcome to another news update from What a Hell of a Way to Die. It's Francis. I am so glad that I have kept doing this. I get a lot of really good comments. The last episode that I did, I talked about anime that I was watching. I got some good suggestions of some new stuff to watch. So that's great. I actually have more stuff that I have been watching that we'll kind of talk about a little bit later. So if you're new to this is kind of a supplemental to the podcast, our regular show, where Nate and I, for the longest time, were talking a lot of dad chat stuff, but, you know, kind of talking about fatherhood, but also still kind of keeping it a little bit military. This is a lot more military heavy, and, you know, military news, and, you know, I read from anti-war zines and things like that, because I do like to kind of maintain that root to it. And probably we'll start putting these out on the regular feed at some point in time. I don't know, because there is a little bit of a visual cue to this one, so we'll see. Maybe we'll have to be very good at describing the technical of the week to all of the audio listeners, or I'll just have Nate put that as the photo for that one. So without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at our pieces today. So military Army Preboot Camp to become permanent. So if you're new to this one, the Army realized that, like, there's a lot of really good candidates out there that could join the Army, but they're either too overweight or they're not good enough at school. I do not want to say fat and stupid, because I know better than to kind of say that anybody are those things. So this is kind of they call it pre-boot camp because you're in the Army, and I've talked about this before, I believe with Nicholas, or one of the many the writers at Task and Purpose that I have on. But the military came up with this idea where they're going to, you know, if you want to join the Army but you're not meeting these standards, but you could, if you had a place to do that and people to help you do it, then you could meet these goals. So you get like this before going to boot camp, you get to go to this thing and you get to maybe lose a few pounds to get, you know, into a better shape for boot camp, because boot camp, it's rough. Like, if you're a person that exercises regularly, it's not too bad, I assume, I guess. Like, because boot camp, like, it's not like going to the gym. Like, I could go to the gym, you know, 2 hours a day. It's not going to prepare me for a 12-hour road march. So I don't know. Anyway, I'm rambling on that. But pre-boot camp is becoming permanent because they found out that it actually helps. And look, I know that we're very like, don't join the Army, but I do like to celebrate when the Army figures something out that's like, hey, here's a good idea maybe that we could have, and then we could do it. And look, it's helping our recruitment numbers. And like, you're just always used to the Army, this big Army's like, but no, fuck you, get out of here with your goddamn, you know, Tommy letting people try to do better themselves before they join the military. Whatever. They can't, I guess, you know, it showed results, and the military was happy with that. So kudos to the Army for like finding a good thing and sticking with it and being like, no, we can keep this around. I'm sure there's a lot of people who can be whining and crying about, you know, letting people who are dumb in the Army. I don't know if you have ever been in the Army, but there's a lot of people with incredibly high IQs in the Army that were dumb as shit in many other ways. So don't put it past them, man. We need, the Army needs people to do stuff. Like, we're not at war at the moment. So like, now is like one of the few kind of politically okay times to join. As soon as the war starts, though, you got to get out. No, don't join the Army. That's a joke. Don't join the Army, please. But if you do, or if you want to, and you're afraid you're not going to score high enough on the ASVAB, or you got a couple of extra pounds, they got something for you at least. So, Texas Guardsmen's spied on migrants in WhatsApp. So, this is actually going to be the subject of our main podcast today with Davis Winky. I brought Davis on to talk about this one. Operation Lone Star has been a massive clusterfuck since the very beginning. We've talked about it a few times in the past. Operation Lone Star is the National Guard being set up along the Mexico border. I've talked to, so a while ago, a long time ago, in the early days of the show, I talked to an airman that was stationed down along the border. This was pre-COVID, pre-Lone Star, I think pre-Trump, maybe. I can't remember, but very early in the podcast. Um, and I talked to him, but he said the basic things that they did in Air Force was surveil, and if they saw something, they said they passed the information along to the Border Patrol. That's it. That's all they did. Now, you want to have the argument about how invasive or whatever that is. You can have that argument in the comments. But I bring this up because at that time, it's a very light touch that the military has. It is specifically surveilling and within the allowed I don't want to say allowed legalities of the border and everything there. So, but this, however, Operation Lone Star started in 2021 because of racism. And then every racist governor was like, I'm going to throw my racism down there too. So like, there's big clot of like National Guardsmen from a bunch of different states are down there. And if you don't know the way the National Guard works versus the Army Reserve or the regular Army, National Guard is run by the state. It's paid by the state. It is trained and gets federal dollars because the federal government says, look, we'll give you these things if we get to call up on your guys when we need them. So in essence, the state runs the National Guard. One of the big problems with that is that when you are deployed, like when you're called up in the National Guard, it's either you're going on a deployment, and the deployment comes with benefits and you basically get activated into federal service. That comes with benefits. That comes with health and retirement and taxes and BAH and all kinds of things that the National Guard does not get. Because usually the National Guard gets called up for a couple weeks. Like they'll do their 2-week-a-year training, or they will be called up in service for flooding. In Missouri, it's always flooding. But they're called up for like 10 days because they don't need them that long. But what they do need is like, we need a large body of people that have a rank structure and logistics and vehicles and everything that we need. And we need it now. We can't stand it up. That's what you have the National Guard for, is to come in and just be like, yeah, we can be a bunch of bodies moving, sandbags here and food there and whatnot. So, but while these guys are down there, they're not getting any of that because they're activated on these state orders, which don't give them any of the cool like federal benefits. And look, I am probably boring a few of you, but like this distinction is important when it comes to like, this is already a shitty mission. Like, soldiers are killing themselves down there. It is not good because there is no like clear rules of engagement. There's no line, like nobody knows the fuck they're doing, and nobody's being given good like equipment or logistics or fucking a mission statement of any kind. So there's a lot of problems. There's a lot of stuff going on there. This story is the National Guard, the intel guys, just like started deciding that they were gonna like start honeypotting coyotes that were bringing people over the border. And their whole thing is that we're doing it because we're trying to find the cartel. But like, dude, you can't do that. Like, I understand that like you think this is a good idea, but like legally, you are fucking everybody over. But in the conversation that we had with Davis, we find out that legally we don't even know if this is legal. So, because it's a weird in between. So listen to the full episode that's coming out probably the day after this one comes out. It's a great interview. We talk about we go through the whole story and talk about everybody down there. So, fantastic interview. You should listen to that. I'm gonna do that thing where I drink on the thing. Well, it's the good stuff. Now, finally, we're back to UFOs, and I've definitely got to get Nick on for this one. So, Nick, I know you watch these, so I already DM'd you. Pentagon unveils one-stop shop for declassified information on UFOs. Finally, we have it. We have the website that we need to and I wish it had more because like I already spent a little bit of time on this. But here, let's take a look at this. Take a look at this website here. So this is the website. Uh, All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, the AARO. AARO.mil for those of you who want to play along at home. This is fantastic because it's like they're trying for something here, but like this website looks very GeoCities to me. I don't know. It like it feels fake. It feels like a CIA website. Like I would feel like this is like they're fucking with us. But it does have videos. So you and your buddies can sit around and try to figure out what stuff is. Look at this. See this one. Let's see how this one does. Yeah. So it's just whoop. What's that? What's that? We don't know. We don't know. UFO. Everybody go and jump on your favorite forums to try to figure it out. Although it does say that a Reaper was looking at another Reaper, and that was probably a commercial aircraft. This was a favorite of mine right here. This like just some dudes hanging out at a gas station, and then what's that? But God bless the Reaper who is just like, no wait, hold on, that's fucked up. Like and is just trying to follow it. Look at him go. He's trying to keep on this thing. And what is it? Like it's just a gold ball. It's not going through any walls. Like how high up is that? I don't know. So um fun place for you and your friends to go and smoke a lot of weed and freak yourselves the fuck out while watching videos. There's not very many, unfortunately. Hopefully they're going to have some more. We got some education down here, but it's still all very, very brand new. So hopefully we're going to get some more. This is I want UFO footage that's not tainted by wackos on the internet. Like I want to come up with my own wacko stuff. I don't want to be like because stuff like this you don't get to just like watch raw video very often with no commentary or no somebody who's like let's make speculation. As you saw, I don't even want to speculate here. What is it? I don't know. Fucking get your friends. Let's all get in there and figure it out. This is a perfect icebreaker for a baby shower, perhaps. We'll play What the Fuck Was That? We'll bring up some flair stuff here. How long was this one? Yeah, we're not going to watch a whole bunch of these, but look, I am very excited about being able to watch more stuff. If you have apparently like if you've had a experience, you can go ahead and there's a link to go ahead and send that in. Yeah, submit a related program report. So if you too have RQ-7 Reaper drone footage of a strange object, you can put it on in here. Just so that we're aware though, it is no longer a UFO. It is a unidentified anomalous phenomenon, a UAP, because we don't know if those things were flying. What if that ball was on a really big, long wire? I don't know. It could have. Maybe if it was a rocket. That's not, that's not necessarily. I want to make sure that we're using the correct nomenclature going forward. So UAPs from now on. No more UFOs. That doesn't exist anymore. You no longer are allowed to believe. All right. So here's kind of what I've been watching, reading through the week. I really love that I did this last weekend. I got a lot of really great suggestions of other stuff. So, I'm trying to read more graphic novels. I'm trying to watch more anime, especially newer stuff, just because I want to see what's out there. There's a lot of stuff that I kind of missed when I was younger, so I got time now to watch these things and read these things. So, Paper Girls was suggested to me by a friend, and I really enjoyed this one. My friend told, because he knows my daughter loves comic books too, and he says it's not really for her because she's 8. And then I get it from the library and I bring it home, and my daughter's just like, "Oh, Paper Girls, I've read that." She didn't read the whole thing. She read 1 or 2 books, like the 1 or 2 of the issues, and then she said it was too violent for her. Which she reads like Spider-Man and Batman. So I don't know, like maybe she likes the cartoonish violence. She doesn't like the actual violence, but Paper Girls is also very cartoonish violence, I guess. Well, they kill a guy, I guess. I get it. It's not for her. I mean, she said it was violence, but also just there's a lot of themes going on there. There's a lot of just very complicated time travel. That's time travel is the whole point of it. It's this whole time war that these girls get caught up in. Uh, but it's a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. I would also say that I saw that there's a um, adaptation from Amazon, so I'm gonna have to try and take a look at that one. I like watching adaptations. It's like I like it when I like a book and then they're like, hey, we're gonna make a movie out of this. That kind of like I'm cool with that. You know, if I don't like the movie, the book doesn't go away. Maybe I'll be sad that the movie sucks or that it didn't do the book justice or whatever. But there's always a chance that it is going to be good too. So everything that I've read about Paper Girls, the uh, adaptation on Amazon, has been fairly positive. So I'll check it out. I'm the guy who didn't mind Cowboy Bebop. I thought it was fine. I get why people didn't like it, but I thought it was fine. I'm sure I'll get a lot of sticks and stones on that one. But Paper Girls, recommend. If there's anything that's kind of like this that you would suggest, also let me know, and I'll throw it in the mix. So the next thing is Chainsaw Man. I started watching this because Hulu kept kind of suggesting it to me, and then it would not suggest it, then it would bring it back up. It's like, do you want to watch this thing about a guy who can turn into a chainsaw demon? And I was not interested, as it turns out, for the longest time. But then I did get interested. I was kind of in between shows to watch in the background of work on stuff. So I picked this one up. I thought it was the first episode was incredibly depressing, and I didn't want to watch it anymore. But I did give it another chance on the second episode, and I'm glad I did. It's still like it's one of the dumbest things I've ever watched, but like it's so well done, and the premise is so stupid, but also so incredible. And I feel like anytime they like, you've got Denji, who is just the dumbest kid alive, and really one track mind kind of hormonal teenager, and he gets very annoying sometimes. But the way that they do all of the animation on the demons that they find, and just very good art direction, I think. So I've been enjoying this. I'm glad that I picked it up because I was kind of in a dearth of adult animation stuff. I grew up watching Futurama and a little bit of Simpsons and Family Guy and stuff like that. So, this I wanted something animated to watch that would also be funny, and this really does fill it in pretty well. This is not a like. It's funny in a way that I like, where it's not a let's crack a whole bunch of jokes. It is it's funny context, funny within the story itself, through personality and character building and things like that. So general storytelling. So I've been enjoying this. I'm about halfway through it. I already see that there's a petition to have this redone again because people are upset that it doesn't do the manga justice. Personally, I don't really like reading manga because the manga that I have read, and I'm sure maybe somebody can suggest something else, but the black and white with very little shading and absolutely no color, it's hard for my brain to process that, basically. And the also just the very simplistic like drawings that they do. Now, and I am not knocking manga in any way, shape, or form. Please don't think that I'm saying anything bad about it. My brain just cannot deal with it. So I'm glad that these things are happening where I can watch it in this awesome animation style and this great colors and everything, with all these stupid jokes. And my brain doesn't want to explode trying to parse everything. So love it. Been enjoying it. I'll probably finish it up this week. Looking for something else to watch. One Punch Man, I've heard is pretty good. The anime is on Hulu as well. I know that I think Netflix just did a live action, so I'm gonna watch the anime first before I watch the new one, so that I can be properly annoyed by whatever. So, but I think this is great. The haters, I don't know what they're hating on. I'm sure they've got haters. There's a lot of like, oh, this there's a petition to have this done, which doesn't mean anything. That's just, fine. You can petition all you want. You're not funding it, and it got like 2,000 signatures. So whatever. Chainsaw Man's great. Watch it. And then finally, so I can get out of the hot box that is this pod shack, is our fucking technical of the week. This is out of Poland. This is now buying a truck and converting, like, this is, I get technically civilian vehicle, even though that it is being completely repurposed, probably made specific for the military for these purposes. It does fall into that technical that the categorization. I absolutely love not trying to take Toyota off the back whatsoever. Toyota has always been kind of like we don't like the whole technical, we don't like that, because, and to be fair, the people who were using technicals were terrorist organizations. But it turns out that a technical is an incredibly useful piece of machinery, and everybody should have one. And that's why everybody in, people in Ukraine, people in Poland, people, these militaries are coming up with this. Technicals are fantastic. You don't have to, it's not hard to teach somebody how to drive one, because it's a fucking pickup truck. Like, can you drive a regular car? Cool, you can drive a pickup truck. Driving an MRAP, driving a Humvee, those things fucking suck. Now, if I'm about to get hit by an IED, do I want to be in this fucking aluminum can? No, absolutely not. I want that MRAP. But, I'm an American soldier. We are huge pussies behind armor. We don't do cool stuff like driving through potholes and gunning down MiG fighters and shit like that. Just that's what we let ADA do. So I'm in love with this. I love that it says tradition continues in the back. As you can see behind me is my little happy Toyota-thon. So this is a fantastic addition to our technical of the week. I believe that's a Z23 -2 nomenclature. It's an anti-aircraft. Obviously, it's pointing upwards. It's big guns. It's meant to shoot down some shit. These are the things that dreams are made of. So thumbs up and good hunting if you ever get out there. If we ever hit that big red Article 5 button, good hunting to the Polish soldiers who are going to be in this one. Okay, so our readings for today are from Off the Brass. This is a newsletter that was given out around Portsmouth Navy Yard. Portsmouth is on the east side of the country. It is technically in Maine, but it's right on the Maine Massachusetts border. So this is another kind of Air Force, kind of Navy, but mostly naval stuff going on here. And this first one is a little interesting, because in the past, we've talked about newsletters that reprint stories from other places, but this is the first one that seems kind of like a mashup of, we are taking the words of Smedley Butler and kind of putting them on the end of our own discussion here. But there's also some Eugene Debs kind of thrown in there as well. So this is an interesting one, I thought. So this is called American History, parentheses, the kind you don't get in school. This is the first of a series we hope to do on the ways the U.S. Armed Forces are used and who benefits from this use. We want to educate ourselves and others about the interesting and important historical facts that we never learned, because the media is controlled to mislead the public, to only allow us to learn what the establishment feels we should know, as in the recent case of the government's attempts to suppress the Pentagon Papers and keep the people from learning the truth about the Vietnam War. A side note about the Pentagon Papers and the Afghanistan Papers that came later. The Pentagon Papers kind of talked about how we were enlarging our scope in the war in Afghanistan with the bombing in Cambodia and Laos and just all the other bullshit that we got up to. The Afghanistan papers were the ones that came out that said, what the fuck are we doing? This is a big money pit and we keep throwing money into it and not getting any money back out of it. It's literally insane that we keep doing this. And then we continue to do it for another 5 or 6 years. So this kind of shows that, releasing information even back then as it is now, just because we're releasing these papers, this is, yeah, we fucked up, doesn't mean we're actually going to do anything about it. But anyway, we continue. Also, we failed to learn many things in school because school boards are always made of rich and powerful people and communities, and because schools and universities are mainly funded by big business and military research problems and are therefore afraid to teach anything that does not support and glorify their interests. Side note, glad we got away from that, and it's now it's just ran by sports teams at this point. We have to learn how the military is really used and who uses it, and the real reasons for U.S. intervention all over the world and our constant role as global cop. We all know, or we should know, that all the Vietnamese killed by the U.S. guns, bombs, and chemical warfare, and all the Americans who were killed there did not die for their own gain or because they were commies or they were fighting communist aggression, but because the U.S. refuses to let other nations govern themselves, and because Lockheed, Linton, Dow Chemical, and other corporation interests are receiving millions of dollars in defense contracts as a result of this war, and the oil companies are afraid of losing the rich petroleum deposits around the Indochina if the U.S. pulls out and lets the people run their own nations. But how many of us know that World War I, the war to end wars, the war fought to make the world safe for democracy, was actually fought for the same reasons? In 1914 to 1918, 10 million soldiers and civilians died in the First World War. Before we entered World War I, President Wilson said that the reason for the war was that England owned the world and Germany wanted it. Although most U.S. citizens were against getting involved, big banks like National City Bank were getting rich by loaning money to the England, France, and other allies at high interest rates, and Allied spending for American food, munitions, and raw materials were the basis of the America's booming economy. If Germany won, American companies stood to lose over $2.5 billion in loan repayments and credit purchases of war materials. In 1917, things looked bad for England and France. The American ambassador in London wired home, "Perhaps our going to war is the only way our prominent trade position can be maintained and panic averted." This cable was kept secret from the American public until 1936. About a month later, America declared war on Germany and its allies. Senator George W. Norris of Nebraska stated, "We are going to war on the command of gold." Most of the working people, in fact, most Americans, except the rich and powerful few, were anti-war, so a committee on public information was formed to sell the war to the American people. The mass media was used to its fullest extent. Posters, movies, pamphlets, advertisement, newspaper, and public relations campaigns were all employed to make the American people think they were fighting to protect democracy, when in reality it was, as President Wilson described it, a, quote, commercial and industrial war, end quote. Meanwhile, and again, an interesting parallel today, Congress passed acts and laws making it a crime to speak out against the war, and thousands of people were jailed for opposing it. Newspapers urging American involvement were suppressed or run out of business. Eugene Debs, one of the great pacifists and fighters of the workers' rights of his days, made a speech in which he stated, quote, "The master class has always declared the war. The subject class has always fought the battles. The master class has all to gain and all to lose, especially their lives." For this speech, he was charged with the violation of the Sedition Act and sentenced to 10 years in prison. At the same time, American battleships and Marines took control by force of Puerto Rico, Haiti, Dominican Republic, Cuba, Nicaragua, Panama, and other countries which had resources that big businesses needed. Think about it. What if the 20% of our entire gross national product was spent trying to provide better jobs, schools, and housings for people that so desperately needed them, instead of trying to make a few corporations richer at the expense of millions of lives? I spent 33 years and 4 months in active service as a member of our country's most agile military force, the Marine Corps. I served in all the commission rank from second lieutenant to major general, and during this period I spent most of my time being a high-class muscle man for big business, for Wall Street and for the bankers. In short, I was a racketeer for Wall Street. I helped purify Nicaragua for the International Branding House of Brown Brothers in 1909 to 1912. I helped make Honduras right for American fruit companies in 1903. I brought to light the Dominican Republic for American sugar interests in 1916. And in China in 1927, I helped to see it that Standard Oil went its way unmolested. So that last part is kind of from War is a Racket by Smedley Butler, which if you haven't read it, it's a quick little pamphlet you can go through. I suggest it for multiple reasons, and Smedley Butler, War is a Racket is the thing that we know him for. But like any person, he had his ups and downs and whatnot. So double Medal of Honor winner though, or recipient. So I guess, but any Medal of Honor before World War I is really kind of suspect in a lot of ways, because they used to give you medals of honors for like gunning down brown children, because they're like, they're just not humans to people in the 1890s. So you could get away with it back then. But so this was kind of a piece where they're putting it together. Unfortunately, I haven't found too many more copies of this, so I don't know if they continued on with it. But a little bit of Eugene Debs in there, and that's perfect for, we just had Labor Day. I've actually been to the Eugene V. Debs Museum out in Terre Haute. It's the first time Nate and I ever met face to face, was at a fucking leftist house in Indiana. So if that doesn't really nail our relationship home right there, I don't know what does. So next up, I have a piece called Harvey Daniels Rap Despite City Hall. This is about two black soldiers, George Daniels and Bill Harvey, who were sentenced to 6 and 10 years in prison for saying that they shouldn't have to go to the war. Being very specific about how black people shouldn't have to go fight a white man's war when, black people shouldn't have to be forced to go oppress people overseas when they're being oppressed at home, which, hey, it makes sense to me. But these guys, they never denied to do an order. They never said, you will not send us. They just said, you shouldn't do this. And they were sent to prison. So, and they were in jail for about 4 years until kind of a groundswell came and protested against them being imprisoned for saying, don't send me to this shitty war. So this is a piece that's kind of about them, I think before they went to prison. On Saturday, July 17th, George Daniels and Bill Harvey spoke to GIs and civilians about the court-martial which sentenced them to 6 and 10 years for speaking out against the Vietnam War and saying that blacks should not have to fight other oppressed people in a white man's war for freedom that they did not have, and they should not be sent into the black communities for riot control against their brothers and sisters who were fighting against racism for their rights. A good example of our freedom of speech and our right of free assembly happened today during our recent attempt to use the Konica Coffee House as a place to have Bill and George speak and to show a movie on the effects of the war. We approached the people who run the coffee house and gave their okay, but Canny, the city manager, stepped in. We called the coffee house and told them that city council should cancel their lease if they allowed us to use it. His excuse was that one of the speeches in the movies were one-sided. We wonder why Mr. Canny allows military recruiters, VFW, and the Elks Club, which excludes blacks from memberships, in his town. Could it be because, though they are one-sided too, they are on the same side as his? And so just as a little bit of a historical follow-up for that, I have another piece here that is an opinion piece from the Foster's Daily Democrat, and this is published in Maine, so the same general place that the base was. So this is called A Bit of Portsmouth Naval Shipyard History. It's only attributed to a staff writer, and this came out back in 2014. So one summer day in the early 1970s, I came home to find the acrid odor of aerosol in the air. My husband, Portsmouth attorney Tom Dudley, was in the basement spraying a bedsheet with the words Free Harvey and Daniels. That afternoon was the first of many when we sailed back and forth in front of the Portsmouth Naval Prison on our boat, the aptly named Ride On, with the bed sheet pinned to the sail. And it is great. It's Free Harvey and Daniels on a ship there. I'll put it up in the video here. William Harvey and George Daniels were serving sentences at the prison of respectively 6 and 10 years. In 1968, Harvey's and Daniels had been overheard beefing about the Vietnam War, calling it a white man's war, and stating that no black man could, in good conscience, support the war while black people in this country were suffering great injustice. Very, very, just as my own aside, Very apt that they said, oh, you think that that's how it is? Let's put you in jail for bad-mouthing the war. Okay, neither refused to be shipped to Vietnam and neither disobeyed an order. However, they were court-martialed, dishonorably discharged, lost all their allowances, and brought back to Portsmouth in shackles. They had been in the prison for 4 years when news of their flight touched many of the seacoast and beyond. When SCORR, the Seacoast Council on Religion and Race, headquartered at St. John's Church, learned of the imprisonment, its members began to organize. Congregations prayed for Harvey and Daniel's safety. Clergy wrote letters. Gatherings were held at the flagpole in Prescott Park. Dr. Spock came and joined with hundreds marching from the flagpole to the gate of the shipyard, where marchers were met by fire hoses and buses of battle-ready Marines with bayonets fixed. Dr. Spock is not the same as the Star Trek Spock. Dr. Spock, I knew him as he wrote like the book that all of our mothers read about raising babies. I don't think anybody reads Dr. Spock anymore. But in the 1960s and 1970s, he was a big name. People respected him. The protests began in April and went through the long, hot summer until September, when Harvey and Daniels were suddenly released. No explanations given, but much to everyone's great relief. So we can go ahead and add Bill Harvey and George Daniels to our ever-growing list of GIs who ended up in prison for extended periods of time for the crime of being like, I don't want to go get my ass shot off in a rice paddy on the other side of the world. Let me tell you, there's a lot of things that I get on Trump about, but his being a draft dodger is like the one smart thing that he did. So especially when it came to Vietnam, because you can see how these kinds of things go. And our final piece from Off the Brass is going to be Mail Call. Everybody loves it when people write in to tell us their opinions. It's like Twitter, but 1970s. Dear OTB, have you ever seen someone open a cage where an animal is kept and wondered why it made no attempt to escape, although freedom was right in front of it? When animals, or people, are kept in cages, whether they're physical, economic, or mental, they sometimes come to believe that the cage is their natural environment, and resist anything that would rattle the bars. They even consider the keeper of the cage their friend and protector. This makes it much easier for the keepers of the cage, because the caged is unaware of its oppression, and it doesn't know enough to fight for freedom. This is why slaves continue to serve their masters, why some American Indians betrayed their people and became scouts for the army, and why we continue to allow ourselves to be drafted and fight for things that serve things that we gain nothing from. A little aside on those two things, this is like 1969. They're being very flippant about things like that. I would hope current, other military left-leaners wouldn't be just like, yeah, it's why slaves continue to be slaves, because they're brain, like, there's a lot going on here, man, and to say that it's because they like their keepers or whatever, it's just kind of like, I get where you're coming from, but just keep it in your area. Don't take it to anybody else's, like, why they did what they did. You talk about why you did what you did. The military is a cage, and we are imprisoned for our 2, 4, or 6 years. We see our brothers and sisters caged in prisons, reservations, and ghettos. Yet whenever someone tries to right these wrongs, we strike at them or refuse to support them, because we have been told that whatever our country does is for our own good, and that a large war machine is necessary to protect freedom and the American way, and that these things are as good as they can be, and that some people have to be poor and some people have to get fucked over for the good of the majority. Bullshit. Everyone has a right to live, and everyone could live well and in peace if a few didn't have to be millionaires and generals and admirals at the expense of everyone else to satisfy their ego trips and greed. We don't hate America, we love it. Or rather, we love what it should be and what it's supposed to be. And that's why are we concerned that the people are content to live in cages when they should be free. However, we don't believe in my country, right or wrong. Lieutenant Calley wasn't right in machine gunning women and children just because he was acting for the army, and the U.S. government any more than Eichmann was right in murdering the Jews just because Hitler told him to. We think of American interests as the interests of all the people rather than those of tricky dick and politicians and big businesses. Most important, we realize that freedom isn't just freeing yourself and doing your own thing without regard for others. As long as there are ghettos, as long as as women are regarded as mindless sex objects, as long as our bombs continue to murder Vietnamese, none of us are free. Freedom is a free society, not personal freedom that is bought with money or by kissing ass, or freedom gained by escaping to dope or other outlets. If we all work together, we can change America to the free society that's supposed to be before it's too late, and there won't be any more cages. Free the people, jail the jailers. And this comes from a quartermaster and a private in the Marine Corps. Questionable racial comparisons aside, this is a very good piece. One of the more coherent "fuck the army" pieces that I've read. So I really like this one. Again, this is off the brass. This is in Portsmouth. I'll see if I can find some more. Might go back to Broken Arrow because I just love listening to those enlisted dudes complain. See, this is like. I read a lot of like kind of some of the more intellectual, quote intellectual stuff like this, where they're thinking about the big picture stuff, where they're thinking about what does this war mean long term? What does this mean for the people long term? There's always not advertisements in this one specifically, but there are articles about where to get help if you're trying to be discharged, if you're trying to be a conscientious objector. So these are great, but then the other one, Broken Arrow, is just like, why does my fucking bed suck? And I relate really well to the bitchy 19-year-old because we still have them, and they have every right to bitch. I mean, I don't know if you've kept up with a lot of what was going on in military bases. Dining facilities aren't opening. Soldiers obviously not getting paid well enough. Barracks in just absolute shambles and disarray, mold, and I saw somebody posting a rattlesnake nest that some people had to deal with. So, the army has always kind of fucked people over, and at least like now with a volunteer army, it's like this shit sucks, but like you could have looked this up you could have Googled this and figured it out and not done this, but you didn't do that. Vietnam, you're being drafted. That sucks. That's not on you. So, hopefully, I'll be able to dig up some more of these, but I think we're going to go back to more bitchy privates next time. All right, guys, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for watching. For those of you who expected me to have a beard, I'm sorry. I like to keep it smooth. The longest I've gone is about 12 days without a shave, and that did not work out for me. I do want to go ahead and say for a couple things out that we have in the store. Just refreshed on our Fuck Rhodesia stickers. 3-inch vinyl stickers. You can put them on anything and it will stay. These are not cheap little paper ones that are going to get all torn up. The worst that I've seen these things go through is a dive helmet. And they held up pretty well for a little bit. So as long as you are not regularly diving with this in the Mississippi River, you're going to be okay. You can put it on your car. You can put it on your laptop. It's going to stay for a while. You can continuously say fuck Rhodesia. The meaning behind this one is fuck Rhodesia. And then also we have the remake of this Ireland R. Cuba, the 1970s. British people trying to whip up their own Bay of Pigs out of the Bay of Potatoes, I suppose. But this was a propaganda poster from the 90s, or excuse me, from the 70s. And I had it recreated in stickers because I love political slap tags. So that's kind of what this is. However, I really want to confuse a lot of people by what my politics are. So those are both available in the store along with all kinds of other stuff. And as always, if you want, you can always take 10% off in the store with the code word technical. It's always working. It's always one that's there. I had it as one that I was mailing out, but like, fuck it, just technical. Take 10% off. Buy a couple of stickers. You'll be fine. You'll love it. You'll love these stickers. Thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you for watching. I'll talk to you next week.